The Kari were once feared across the galaxy. A race of towering warriors bred for combat, their dominance was unquestioned. Strength, size, and sheer physical power were everything in Kari culture. They fought for glory, for honor, and above all, for the thrill of battle. But over time, that very focus on strength became their downfall. Internal power struggles, endless wars, and a refusal to adapt led to their decline. Their enemies grew smarter, more strategic, while the Kari relied on brute force. Resources dwindled, morale broke, and their once mighty empire began to crumble. In the midst of this crumbling legacy was Kari, a small, seemingly fragile Kari warrior. She didn't fit the mold of her people. At only half the size of her comrades, she was an anomaly in a society that valued size above all else. She was mocked, ridiculed, and seen as an embarrassment by her peers. Despite her stature, Kari had something her people failed to see: a sharp mind. Her intelligence was her greatest weapon, though few ever recognized it. She had a gift for tactics, for seeing patterns in the chaos of battle. But in the eyes of the Kari, intelligence meant little without brute strength. Kari's life was a constant struggle to prove herself. Every battle was an uphill fight, not just against her enemies, but against the expectations of her own people. She trained harder, studied more, and fought with a determination that was unmatched. But no matter how much she accomplished, she was always too small, too weak, or not Kari enough. Her spirit, however, never broke. She fought to the best of her abilities, even when those abilities were overlooked by those around her. The day came when the Kari faced a new and terrifying enemy. An alien force, superior in both numbers and technology, threatened to wipe out a Kari colony on a distant, desolate planet. The Kari leaders, fearing total annihilation, made the harsh decision to abandon the colony. They decided to cut their losses, deeming the planet and its inhabitants expendable. Kari was among those left behind. Her people, in their haste to save themselves, considered her survival irrelevant. Alone, Kari stood on the barren planet, watching the last Kari ships disappear into the sky. They had left her to die, a necessary sacrifice, in their eyes. For a moment, a flicker of despair washed over her. She had always known she was different, but to be left behind like this was a betrayal she hadn't expected. Still, her warrior spirit refused to let her give up. She wasn't the type to surrender, no matter the odds. She would survive, not for the Kari, but for herself. She scoured the planet for resources, using her sharp mind to stay ahead of the dangers that lurked in the shadows. Every day was a battle for survival, but Kari refused to let her circumstances break her. She had been left behind, abandoned by those she once fought for, but she would not fall. She would find a way to survive, even if it meant doing it alone. A small team of human special forces had been dispatched to the planet with one objective: to gather intel and locate any survivors left behind. Their mission was simple: get in, scout the terrain, and if possible, evacuate anyone still alive. The planet had fallen under heavy siege, but the humans weren't new to this kind of warfare. They were adaptive, quick on their feet, and skilled in the art of survival. Every mission required teamwork, coordination, and an unwavering resolve to see the job through, no matter the odds. As they moved through the desolate landscape, their focus was sharp. They knew the enemy was out there, and time was running short. They were prepared for almost anything, but what they found next was far from expected. As they rounded a ridge, they stumbled upon a lone figure, small and unassuming. At first glance, they could hardly believe their eyes. It was a Kari, but unlike any Kari they had seen before. She was small, her frame more delicate than the hulking warriors they had fought in past battles. Her appearance was almost cute, a stark contrast to the brutal, warlike image the humans had of the Kari race. The humans raised their weapons, unsure of what to make of her. Kari, startled by their sudden appearance, instinctively took a defensive stance, though her heart pounded in her chest. She knew she stood no chance against an entire squad of human soldiers, but years of surviving on her own had taught her not to show fear. The tension hung in the air for a brief moment, until Kari realized that these humans weren't here to fight her. They seemed just as confused by her presence as she was by theirs. Lowering her guard, Kari slowly stepped forward, her sharp mind quickly assessing the situation. These humans could be her chance, her only chance, at survival. Her people had left her to die, but perhaps the humans, known for their resourcefulness, wouldn't see her as expendable. She raised her hands, signaling that she wasn't a threat, and the soldiers, sensing no immediate danger, cautiously approached. The initial tension faded as the humans lowered their weapons. There was something about Kari that caught their attention, something beyond her appearance. Her eyes showed intelligence, a spark of determination they recognized. They exchanged quick words among themselves, realizing that leaving her behind wasn't an option. Unlike her own people, the humans didn't view Kari as weak or useless. In fact, they could sense there was more to her than met the eye. Kari, though still wary, began to relax. She wasn't used to being seen as an equal, but the humans weren't treating her with the same condescension her own people had. They didn't care about her size or the fact that she didn't fit the typical mold of a warrior. They saw her potential, her quick thinking, and the way she held herself, even when faced with overwhelming odds. A bond began to form between Kari and the soldiers, an unspoken understanding that they were in this together now. The humans didn't abandon their allies, and Kari, despite being left behind by her own kind, had found a new group that recognized her for who she truly was. In a galaxy full of enemies, they knew that any ally, no matter how small, could make all the difference. Together, they prepared to face whatever threats lay ahead, knowing that survival would require every ounce of skill and trust they could muster. Kari quickly adapted to working alongside the human soldiers, watching them closely as they moved with precision and efficiency. Their methods were different from the Kari, who relied purely on brute force. The humans were tactical, using strategy over sheer power, and Kari found herself fascinated by their approach. They didn't just react to threats, they anticipated them. For the first time, Kari felt a sense of belonging. These humans respected her thoughts, listened to her suggestions, and treated her as part of the team. She wasn't just a tool to be used or discarded, she was an asset, and that realization filled her with a renewed sense of purpose. The humans, recognizing Kari's sharp tactical mind, wasted no time integrating her into their planning sessions. They showed her how to operate their advanced technology, from weapons systems to communication tools. Kari learned quickly, her agile fingers adapting to the intricate controls of human tech. She appreciated how efficient their systems were, designed to maximize output while minimizing energy, something the Kari would have dismissed as overcomplicated. But to Kari, it was logical. She could see how this technology, paired with the right tactics, could shift the tide of battle. In return, Kari taught the humans what she knew best, how to outsmart larger, more powerful enemies. She showed them how the Kari had perfected guerrilla warfare, using speed and surprise to strike at weak points in larger forces. She demonstrated how agility and timing could allow a smaller force to dismantle a larger one piece by piece. The humans, always open to learning, absorbed her lessons eagerly. Mutual respect grew as they traded knowledge, their bond solidifying with each passing day. What surprised Kari most was how much they valued her input. Her people had never seen her as valuable, but here, with these humans, she was an equal. As the group prepared for their next move, the focus shifted to the looming threat of the alien enemy. Kari, with her deep knowledge of the terrain and enemy tactics, was crucial in planning their counterattack. She proposed key strategies that utilized the landscape's natural cover, suggesting they strike from multiple angles in coordinated attacks, just as she had learned during her years of survival. The humans added their technological expertise to her ideas, refining the plan with precise timing and advanced weaponry. The plan was bold, almost reckless, but it was their best chance. Kari knew the enemy wouldn't expect such a calculated assault from a force so small. The soldiers trusted her completely, and Kari, for the first time in her life, trusted others in return. Together, they forged a plan that would push the limits of what any of them thought possible. With their strategy set, the team stood together, stronger for having combined their strengths. The attack began with the precision of a well-oiled machine. Kari and the human soldiers moved silently under the cover of darkness, blending into the rocky terrain. They had meticulously planned each step of the assault, knowing that any misstep could be their last. Human technology, sleek and deadly, provided them with the advantage of range and precision, while Kari's deep understanding of the landscape allowed them to set up ambush points and traps that would catch the enemy off guard. As the battle unfolded, their smaller numbers worked in their favor. Using hit-and-run tactics, they harassed the enemy forces, striking hard and fast before vanishing into the shadows. Kari's tactical mind guided them through the chaos, predicting enemy movements with uncanny accuracy. Her knowledge of the terrain proved invaluable as they lured the larger, more powerful alien forces into carefully laid traps, cutting off their escape routes and sowing confusion among their ranks. Despite the overwhelming odds, Kari's brilliance and the humans' unyielding resilience turned the tide in their favor. Amidst the chaos of battle, Kari found herself face to face with a towering enemy leader, a being her people would have considered unbeatable. Her heart raced, but she stood firm. The Kari of old might have hesitated, might have backed down in the face of such overwhelming power, but she was no longer that warrior. Drawing on everything the humans had taught her, her agility, her sharp mind, and the newfound combat skills she had honed, Kari made her move. She ducked and weaved, avoiding the brute force attacks of her opponent with a dancer's grace. Her small size, once seen as a weakness, became her greatest strength. She was too fast, too smart, and too unpredictable. Using the human weapons she had trained with, Kari exploited the enemy leader's blind spots, striking at vulnerable points with precision and cunning. In a final, calculated move, she brought the enemy down, a feat that would have been unthinkable to her people. The tide of the battle shifted in that moment, her victory galvanizing the human forces and demoralizing the enemy. With the enemy forces routed, the humans and Kari stood victorious. The once imposing alien threat had been dismantled by a small, unlikely group, united by trust and shared strength. As the dust settled, Kari took a moment to reflect on how far she had come. She had been abandoned by her own people, left to die because they couldn't see her worth. But the humans had seen her for who she truly was, had valued her mind and her heart, and had helped her become the warrior she had always known she could be. She no longer felt the sting of rejection from her people. Kari had found her place, not among the Kari who had dismissed her, but with the humans who had embraced her. She had proven herself, not just to them, but to herself. Kari was no longer the outcast, the small warrior no one believed in. She was a leader, a fighter, and most importantly, she was home.